Hi guys, it's Hilary from We Love Smart Keto. I'm talking today about keto flowers, not the kind that you have in your garden or that your spouse gives you, but the ones that you use for cooking. Come on and say hi, give me a wave or a tag if you're here. We're going to get started talking. This was a request from one of our members specifically for us to talk about keto flowers. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you're watching live, give us a 1. If you're watching on the replay, give us a 2. It's just nice to know how people are coming into the group. Great. Well, let's have a chat then about keto flour. Obviously, if you've been somebody who really loves baking, and some of us have been, I'm not a huge baker, but, I do like to occasionally make bread and cookies and things like that. If you're been a huge baker, sometimes that can be a really big change, going from regular eating, old style eating, through to keto. And so somebody asked us, well, how do we know how to adjust to use other types of flour other than wheat flour? So there are ways that you can have waffles and pancakes and cookies and things on keto. Obviously, if you're trying to lose weight, you want to limit the amount of those that you have. And we talked the other day about artificial sweeteners. And of course, with artificial sweeteners, we also don't want to overdo the amount of artificial sweetener that we have in life. But, the occasional treat is okay. Or if you're making a keto bread that doesn't have any kind of sweetener in it, then obviously that's fine too. But just be aware, that if you're trying to lose weight, that ultimately, although we don't count calories do count. So we want to make sure that we're just being a little bit easy with those. So let's have a chat then about flour and the different types of flour. So first of all, let's talk about wheat flour, which is obviously a non-ketogenic flour. It's a heavy carbohydrate flour. It's got, for 1 cup of flour, that's got about 90 grams of carbs. And, what we're trying to get on a keto diet is less than 20 grams of net carbs per day. So basically, a cup of flour just, will throw you totally out. So and will also raise your insulin quite substantially. So not something we want to be doing. So what are our alternatives and our substitutes? So let's have a talk about that. So I'm going to talk about 3 different kinds and an additive, if you like, a natural additive today. So the first one I'm going to talk about is coconut flour. Then we'll have a chat about almond flour and the difference between almond flour and almond meal. And then we'll also talk about flaxseed a bit, which is perhaps an alternative that you haven't thought about a lot. So tell me, if you are a keto baker, pop in the comments what's your preferred flour to cook with as a keto baker. Is it coconut? Is it almond? Is it flaxseed? Or do you mix it up a little bit? So let's talk about coconut flour. It's very commonly used in a lot of keto recipes, particularly the sweeter recipes. And that's because it has very low net carbs. If we've got 2 tablespoons of coconut flour, that's about 3 grams of net carbs. So really pretty low. And so that's really, really good. And you can substitute it 1-for-1 for wheat flour. So, that makes sort of, if you're trying to convert a recipe, makes it pretty simple. Coconut flour is a bit moister. It's made from the flesh of a coconut, dried and then ground into a powder. So much fattier, obviously, and it's a bit moister. So you might need to use just adjust the quantities and just use a little bit more coconut flour than wheat flour. If you're an intuitive baker, that I know that many of the people in the group are good bakers, and I know we've got some people who are just learning to cook, as it were, getting used to it. You sometimes just have to do it by a little bit of trial error, a little bit of experiment, but in general, 1-for-1 substitution and very low net carbs. So that's a really good option. So give us a tag if your coconut's your preferred. Let us know. Right, the next one I'm going to talk about is almond flour and the difference between almond flour and almond meal. So almond, obviously made of nuts. Almond flour is from blanched almonds, so almonds with the skin removed, and then ground down into a powder. You can just make it yourself in the grinder. You've just got to be careful that you just don't pulverize it into almond butter. One of the ways that I make it is actually I make almond milk. So I will take the blanched almonds, I will put them in with some water, blend them all up, and then filter out the water. So then I've got some almond milk. And then you've got sort of wet almond meal that you can use in almond flour that you can use in cooking. So it's a good way not to waste almonds if you make your own almond milk. But you can also buy almond flour, which, as I said, is made from the blanched almonds. So that again, it's low net carbs. Let me check. A quarter of a cup is 3 grams of net carbs. So, a little bit lower net carbs than the coconut flour. The only thing is, again, just be aware if you eat a lot of that and you're trying to lose weight, that you probably just want to be a bit careful about how much of that you eat and maybe just make it an occasional treat. Let me just check. So again, one for one, I've got my ready reckoner here, 1-for-1 conversion between almond and wheat flour, almond flour and wheat flour. Just be aware again that you might need just a little bit more almond flour because again it's a little bit moister. The other option is to reduce the almond flour a little bit and bulk it up with psyllium husk, so a ground psyllium powder. Psyllium is a plant-based thing made from plantago, which is part of the plantain family. We found from through Asia, a native plant from Asia, and it's good for giving things a bit more of a bread-like texture. It's spelt Psyllium, but pronounced psyllium. So just in case you're trying to look that up, just be a little bit careful with it. If you do have a delicate stomach, it can make things move through you a little bit faster, if you know what I mean. So it's been used for generations, centuries as a laxative. So just be aware of that if you do have a bit of a delicate tummy. But you can put 2/3 of a cup of almond flour with a tablespoon or two, 1.5 tablespoons of psyllium husk powder, and that will help to give things a little bit more of a bread-like quality. So we talked about almond flour. I just want to let you know the difference between almond flour and almond meal. So almond flour is just made with the blanched almonds. Almond meal is the whole almond, so including the skin, the brown part on the outside of the almond, all crushed up together. So it's a little bit coarser. You can still use it for baking, but just be aware that you're going to get a coarser outcome in what you're making. Whereas if you're making, a cake or something, you might want to use the almond flour. So let us know in the comments if you like to cook with almond flour, and what's the favourite thing that you like to make with almond flour. Very good for chaffles, of course, and good for very good all rounder. I sometimes make crackers with almond flour as well. Right, the last flour that I just want to talk about is perhaps one that you haven't thought about. It's perhaps a little less common, but actually really excellent, which is flaxseed meal. So flaxseed's a very fine golden seed. There's a couple of types. There's a brown flaxseed and a golden one, and I think the golden one has my personal opinion, has a bit of a nicer flavour, but either is fine. And you can get that ground up as a flour. Really excellent in terms of it has a lot of omega-3s in it, which are what we find in eggs. It's extremely good for you, so a really good healthy option, and it also has very low net carbs. Let me just check. So with coconut flour, 2 tablespoons has 3 grams of net carbs, whereas with flaxseed meal you can have 6 tablespoons before you get to 3 grams of net carbs. So really good low carb option with some extra benefits of omega-3s. Flaxseed meal is also sometimes just used as an egg substitute. So if you've got an egg allergy, or you're trying to perhaps just limit the number of eggs, although I don't know why you do that. They're perfectly good on keto. Or if you don't have any eggs in the cupboard, maybe you can use flaxseed meal as an alternative. So that's some of the things that we've talked about. We talked about coconut flour, almond flour versus almond meal, and flaxseed meal. So they're all 3 really good options. Just a variety of variation on net carbs within them, but all pretty low. And psyllium husk powder, which is again a very natural product that you can use as something to bulk, and also sometimes gets used as something to give something a bit more of a dough-like quality, so it's easier to knead, particularly with bread. So that's my little chat today about keto flours that you can use in keto. There is a couple of other things that I'm not going to talk about today, but you might want to just explore on your own. There's a couple of flours that are not often used in keto, but actually really good options because they're full of nutrients, nutrient dense, and also very low net carbs. And that's walnut flour, which has a beautiful nutty flavour, of course, and also hazelnut flour. And if you can get those, they're perhaps a little less common to buy, but if you can get hold of those are also excellent options. So let me know in the comments what you've thought of this little session that we've had here, this little Facebook Live. I know not all of you are bakers, but even when you're buying stuff from the supermarket and you look on the label and see what kind of keto flour, perhaps a packaged product that you're going to buy has got in it, I hope that this has just given you a little bit of insight as to the benefits that you're getting and the things to look out for when you're choosing what you're going to buy. So great to chat. Thanks for coming on. I can see there's a few people watching and hiding in the background there. So thanks for coming. And this has been Hilary from We Love Smart Keto. Let me know any opinions you've got, any comments, give us a like so I know you're here. And then we'll see you in the group. And thanks for all your interactions. Bye for now.